Is Hollow Knight Silksong a sequel or a prequel? Hello everybody, my name is Primacon and welcome back to another Silksong video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys enjoy it. The question of Hollow Knight sequel or prequel has been going around in the community for years now. Silksong got announced 5 years ago, and ever since people have been debating if the game is gonna be a sequel or a prequel. Heck, Mossback has made 3 videos about it, each time bouncing back and forth between different opinions. Now, it should be pretty clear that until the game actually does come out, eventually in 2028, we won't know for sure. You can't know till you play it, and I even have a point arguing against that very fact. I don't think Team Cherry will directly connect Silksong to Hollow Knight when it comes to the lore and the story, and I feel like even after we do finish the game, it will somewhat still be up in the air if the game was a sequel or a prequel to Hollow Knight, although be it will be with a lot more evidence, which will allow us to speculate a lot more in the future. But what do we have for now? Well, let's talk about the sequel gang first, because primarily that's where I fall into. And I want to discuss one giant elephant in the room. It is this video that Team Cherry put out in 2019 where they discussed their first blog post, and William Palin clearly said in the video, the sequel to our game, Hollow Knight.
So, alright, so first thing, so this is a game. It's a full, Hornet gets her own adventure in her own full game, in the sequel to our game Hollow Knight. So this will be our second game.
A lot of people cling on to that line. A lot of people were like, no, William said that it's a sequel, so it's supposed to be a sequel. And then other people were like, well, sequel as in like chronologically, yes, it comes after Hollow Knight, but maybe William was being sly over there and trying to give like a wink wink nudge nudge to it being an actual prequel, just the way he said it. So both sides argued back and forth, and that's a point I want you to keep in mind as we discuss the video further. But for now, sequel game. Number one thing, I want it to be a sequel. First, because that idea is just inherently more exciting. Because to me personally, it's not super exciting to figure out what Hornet was doing before the events of the game Hollow Knight, as that's one big point that the prequel gang argues for. Because in all honesty, just figuring out what happens after the story of Hollow Knight to Hornet is much more interesting, because if it is a prequel, we already know what happens at the end. We already know Hornet's gonna come back, she's gonna fight the Knight, end up in one of the 4 possibilities at the end of the game. It's already all laid out, so it kind of takes a little bit of excitement out of me from Silksong's story and lore if it does end up being a prequel. That's one reason why I want it to be a sequel. But the reasons for why I think it will be is the abilities and the gameplay. From what we know so far from the material that has come out is Hornet gets captured by the frickin' Lollipop Guild and they put a seal of binding over her, which limits her powers. This little pale bug flies down, drops on top of the cage, breaks the binding, Hornet breaks free. But she's been pretty drained from the capture. She even passes out right after defeating Moss Mother, as it was shown in the demo back in 2019. So clearly Hornet is not at her full strength at the start of Silksong, but she slowly regains more strength, abilities, tools, skills, and all the powers that she gets from all the Weavers. It would be really naive to believe that Hornet will not end up with 50 or odd so tools and a lot of abilities and different skills by end of the game. Now, my biggest point for why Silksong is a sequel is if it was a prequel, why did Hornet not use any of those abilities or skills or tools in Hollow Knight? Except for one. But here's the counter argument, I hear you say. Well, Hornet did use the Spike Ball tool. Hornet did use the Needle Throw ability. Hornet did use the Air Gaussian Whip trick, whatever you want to call it, in both the Hornet fights. So if she doesn't start with them in Silksong, and she gets them later on, but in Hollow Knight she already has them, that's a clear sign that Silksong should be a prequel, right? Well, yes and no. While yes, that could be the case, what I believe happened was Hornet was very drained from being captured by the bugs, and when she fell into Fireloom, she may have lost a lot of her powers, or she may have been a lot weaker or weakened by her capture. And her gaining her abilities that she already had in Hollow Knight over time in Silksong, presumably at the very starting of the game, is just her regaining herself back to the strength that she already was in Hollow Knight, and everything else in Silksong will be her continuing to get more and more stronger. Another point that I like to bring up when I talk about Silksong being a sequel is, in Hollow Knight, Hornet clearly said that she will be going all out against the Knight in her second fight. she said she will not be holding back and that she feels no remorse in the demise of a weakling. So why would Hornet not use all her Silksong snazzy and fancy abilities against the knight if she was gonna go all out if Hollow Knight Silksong was indeed a prequel? A lot of people countered this point by saying, well, she wasn't going all out, or like, she wasn't trying to kill the knight, or she was just bluffing. While that may be true in someone's headcanon, there is no definitive proof of that anywhere in the lore. And yes, Hollow Knight's lore is up to like player interpretation, but I feel like at that point you are just stretching it way too far and adding your own headcanon into it when a character clearly is stating their motive and it matches with their personality trait. What we see Hornet in Hollow Knight, she would definitely slaughter the knight with no second thought. She's been defending the cast off shell for a while now, and there's no reason for her to not just kill the knight and let him beat her. In fact, even when you beat Hornet, she's slouched over, barely breathing, catching her breath, and she calls us so strong. Compared to how insanely powerful Hornet is shown to be in Silksong, even if she was holding back like 90% of her strength, there is no reason for her to be so out of breath complimenting the knight, mercilessly sparing him. I feel like that's just way too much of a stretch for anyone to believe. With all that being said and done, this is why I very strongly believe that Hollow Knight Silksong will be a follow-up and a sequel to Hollow Knight. Another counter-argument people like to present is obviously the endings, the big elephant in the rooms, the 4 endings, and specifically the one Sealed Siblings ending. If Hollow Knight is a prequel to Silksong, how in the fuck does Hornet end up from the ending of Hollow Knight to the beginning of Silksong? And to that I say, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when the game does come out. We can't have all the answers like I said. Yes, they did say that every single ending in Hollow Knight is considered canon, and that can still hold up true even if Hollow Knight Silksong is a sequel. I made a video about this where I talked about what happens at the end of Hollow Knight. In that video, I talked about how every single ending of Hollow Knight can lead into the starting of Silksong, and I still pretty much stand by it. And of course, lastly, before I end the video, it is the French translation that a lot of people like to bring up. That in one of the French translations, Hornet says that she's been gone out of the kingdom for too long, and now the kingdom has gone to shit, which people like to use as a point for Silksong being a prequel and Silksong going over everything that Hornet has been through before she came back to Hallownest. I still feel that is so vague and loose to be connecting Silksong to that, because A, it's just a French translation, and we all know that the French aren't real, and second, Hornet could have been in XYZ places, Hornet could have been out training, I don't know. That is by far the strongest point of the prequel community, and it's one of those points that's impossible to prove or disprove. I just don't feel that it holds enough merit to hold Silksong as a prequel. In my eyes, it holds the same value as the other people who say, oh, but it's a sequel because William clearly said it's a sequel. Oh my god, all those comments that I saw on Mossbag's video rotted my brain away of all these people being like, but they actually said it's a sequel. They said it's a sequel. Hello? They said it's a sequel to the video he made about talking about why Silksong could be a prequel. That was insane, but that's just a proof that people are very strongly divided on this topic. I see people swing to one side or the other with not very many people right in the middle. As for me, I'm just hoping it's gonna be a sequel because I like when stories progress more, and it would be really interesting to see how Silksong ends, because mind you, Silksong will also have multiple endings. There is absolutely no reason Silksong will not have multiple endings. So if you do want to argue that Silksong will be a prequel, I have a question for you. How will multiple Silksong endings lead into Hollow Knight? You see why the argument of Hollow Knight has multiple endings doesn't work for why saying that Silksong won't be a sequel? Anyway, that's enough for me. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you disagree with me, and as always, I'll see you guys soon with a new video.